Okay, third time's the charm. So this is going to be my tutorial on how to solve this 3x3x4 non-extended. So that means that all the layers move. So, as you've probably guessed, you can't really do, and since these are all cubes, if you do an R prime move and then try to move the top, it won't move because the cubies don't quite line up. So you're going to have to learn a few new algorithms and how to do something a little bit different. This method I made up around Christmas or the day before, or no, not actually the day before, around Christmas or the day after, and it's the 27th as I'm recording this, so this method is brand new. It's actually really still in development, kind of, but I'm still trying to get this out there. So the method really is getting these centers, then pairing up the edges, flipping the edges so that you can solve with R2 moves or L2 or F2 moves, and then getting the corners on top, corners on bottom, edges on the bottom, and then finishing up with the PLO. So that's basically the overview of the method. So I'm going to assume that you have experience in solving the 3x3 and the 4x4. So it's going to be basic reduction. So you're going to get the centers first. This one matches up with that. The orange, you go up, and that will move this piece there. And then you have your orange on this side, up. If you solved a 4x4, this should be really a piece of cake. Not really anything hard at all. Just getting the centers, and only really even 8 out of, 24? It's basically only a third of the regular 4x4 centers. It shouldn't even take you 5 seconds if you're really experienced. Next, we're going to be using the PLO parity for edge pairing. So, unlike the PLO parity that you may have learned solving the 4x4, which is R2 U2, R2 W2, R2 small u2, it does the same thing, but it's a different algorithm, which is more suitable for this cube, which is R2 U2, R U2, R2 U2, R2 U2, R U2, R2 U2, and that will do the PLO parity. Because if you try your regular 4x4 parity on this thing, then you end up with your centers unsolved, which will defeat the whole purpose of the first step. Okay, to edge pair, you're going to use the PLO parity to your advantage, because when you do a PLO parity, this piece moves there. So you're going to, this piece moves there, that piece moves there, to preserve orientation while permuting two pieces. So you're going to use a setup move. You're going to switch these two, essentially, and these two, but that doesn't really matter. And so this piece will go there, and when you move it back, then the edges will be in place. So we go this one, going to be switching these two, R2 U2, R U2, R2 U2, R2 to R U2, R2, U2, and then you would undo your setup move, which was L prime. And you look for your second pair, but unfortunately you don't have any pieces that are directly opposite each other on the same layer, so you're going to have to use OL parity, which if you solved a 4x4, you should already know. And that will make it so you can just do a U2, this one, you see, so L prime, you do and then these two are paired. So now if you don't have any pieces that are opposite each other on the same layer, for example if they're adjacent like these, then you just do your OL parity. If you really like parity, then this is the method for you. Then these two, L prime, there you have it. So now you have your edge pairing complete. Now if you've known ZZ or know anything about edge orientation, you know that these two edges are flipped incorrectly and that you'll need to flip them by doing an F move and then something like a D move and then move it back. But of course, since you can't do a quarter turn on this cube and then be able to turn another one without unturning it, then you'd have to use, guess what, the OL parity. So you do the OL parity that you learned from your 4x4, but you can take advantage of this because when you do your OL parity, since it moves the whole cube like this, then if you had two edges lined up right here and right here, then this will be in the exact same spot. So instead of doing another R2 and then another R2 and then continue on, you didn't have to redo the R2 if you looked ahead, and then you'll have all your edges oriented correctly. The next step is to get all of these yellow corners to be correct. So we'll move this to the spot. I'm saying yellow because that's how that's your cube. So now when I move this R2, then these don't match, so that will make it easier to pair this because it was blue. So that's blue, move it down, over, then back up. This is very intuitive. If you've ever solved the square one before, then you should think that it's easy. So now you have your bottom corners that need to be solved. So if you're going to try to do a 3-cycle of corners, it's probably not going to work unless your algorithm consists of R2s, F2s, and U2s. Because I don't know any algorithms that do that, I had to make my own. So I have an algorithm that just switches these two and switches these top corners oppositely. So I'm going to switch. So because this 3-cycle is really a switch and then another switch, I am able to do the switching algorithm, switch these two, and then switch two more pairs that'll uncorrect and recorrect this top layer and correct these bottom corners. So here's the algorithm. So you go R, U, R, U, R, U prime, R, U, R, U. And as you can see, these are not correct. R. And 2 will be paired up that way because you switch these two. Now if you move this back, then you're going to be switching these two. So you go R, U, R, U, R, U prime, R, U, R, U, R. And that will correct these. So now you just correct for these two. And now you're done with the corners.